So we now get to 1971, and we really enter into the Burger Court. And Reed v. Reed is really the first modern, in big quotation marks, gender-based case that the Supreme Court takes up. And it takes it up about 1 month after the House had voted 350 to 15 to approve the Equal Rights Amendment. So you have to understand that this case is taking place very much at the same time that the Equal Rights Amendment is moving, and at the time when, to some extent, it looked like the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment was basically inevitable. So what are the facts in this case? Well, the state of Idaho provided that the state should favor appointing a man over a woman to be the administrator of an estate. This might sound somewhat trivial, but it was really systematic of a number of areas of really administrative law in which states favored men over women for completely stereotypical reasons. In fact, the reason why Idaho gives, in fact, this is the reason Idaho gives before the court, is that the law was based on administrative convenience and the capacity of men over women. Just imagine having the gall in 1971 to articulate this argument and not and say it in all seriousness. But this is what Idaho brings before the court. The Supreme Court rejects this distinction and rejects those arguments and held that the law is entirely unconstitutional and because it's an arbitrary violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. So the 14th Amendment comes in and in essence says, well, there's no reason for this distinction. It's based on a stereotype. There's no rational reason for it. And so the law is repugnant to the 14th Amendment. Which understand that this, even in that, has stretched the 14th Amendment long past what the 14th Amendment was intended for. Remember the civil rights cases in 1883 when they said, well, wait, hold on, the 14th Amendment only applies to African Americans and freed slaves. And here we are in 1971 going, well, the Equal Rights Amendment applies to women as well. So we've really stretched the meaning of this. So this is the first case in which the Supreme Court invalidates a gender-based classification. But there's one thing that the court doesn't do, and we're really going to watch this as the development through the next cases. And that is, the court does not settle on what type of scrutiny laws which make distinctions based on gender should be subjected to. Laws that make distinctions based on race are subjected to strict scrutiny, which is an exceedingly high standard for a law to get passed. Laws which discriminate on other bases, any number of which we could, height, for example, hair color, things like that, things that are not, don't rise to the level of historic discrimination. Those things only need to get past what is known as the rational basis test. Or does the state or government have a rational reason for that distinction to be made in the law? That's a very low barrier. The court, in this case, does not deal with what level of scrutiny should be used. It simply says that this is a stereotype-made law distinction, and we can invalidate it just for that there is no real reason why this law should exist, and therefore it's repugnant to the 14th Amendment. But they don't weigh in on when other laws, of which there are in 1971, a plethora of, especially at the state levels, that make these gender-based distinctions. How should courts review those going forward? And the court absolutely doesn't weigh in on it in this case. One thing we should know, because there are really going to be two stories going on through these next three cases. One is what are we going to settle on as a standard? And the court really plays that out over the next three cases. Another thing that's going on that we should really take note of is who's arguing these cases. Because right now, in this case, the lead attorney challenging the Idaho law is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has a part to play in the next three cases. If she isn't the lead attorney arguing before the court, she is one of the attorneys on the case. And it is largely through her stewardship and her ability to break things down in a way that a court of 9 men with probably very embedded gender-based stereotypes could see the invidious nature of these distinctions. And further, in the cases coming up, could argue that there needs to be developed a standard by which laws that make these distinctions should be judged. Ruth Bader Ginsburg argued that it should be strict scrutiny, and that the same standard that applies to laws which discriminate on the basis of race are subjected to. She doesn't ultimately get there, but she does better than rational basis, and it's really through her her ability to persuade these men that Reed v. Reed and the cases that follow really enter into an era, the United States really enters into a new era of jurisprudence regarding gender-based distinctions, even in the absence of the Equal Rights Amendment.